Right, big pink face here looking at you. This is not a suntan. This is a wind tan. Having spent the last few days on the Isles of Scilly in incredibly windy conditions, I'm looking a little bit, what's the word? Ruddy faced, I think is the word. Anyway, we have a singular rare occurrence this week. It's raining outside and howling a gale. So I thought this would be a really good opportunity to sit here and give you some pearls of wisdom about coming to the Isles of Scilly. So we're in our rental cottage. We've had a lovely day because we've been out and about in the buggy in St Mary's. And we came back about 4 o'clock, had a cup of tea, and then the heavens opened, and it's like something out of an October gale out there at the moment. So I thought, let's do a few little words of wisdom. So the Isles of Scilly, what can I tell you about the Isles of Scilly? It's a beautiful archipelago of islands, about 25 miles west of Land's End. So it's part of Cornwall, and it's part of the Duchy of Cornwall. And it's a really beautiful part of England and a beautiful place to come and visit. But you do have to make a little bit of an effort to get here. It's not the easiest place to come to. We're lucky because we live in Somerset, so we could just pop down to Exeter Airport and fly over. The two main ways to get to the Scilly Islands are either to fly, you can go by helicopter or by aeroplane. Skybus operates from Exeter but also from Penzance and Newquay. Or you can come on the Scillonian 3, which is the way that most people travel. I don't know very much about the Scillonian 3 and how expensive it is, but I know it takes 3 hours to get there, or get here even. And I know as well that people say it can be a little bit bumpy on the waves, but it is a good way of getting over if you want to not spend too much money because it's a lot cheaper than flying. I believe you can take a bit more luggage with you. And obviously if you want to bring your furry friends, your four-legged dog, hopefully your dog's got 4 legs. I'm sure it would manage with 3 on the Isles of Scilly, but you can bring your dog over as well. So that's how most people arrive in the Scilly Isles. If you fly, which we did, it's very convenient because you can get here very quickly. It takes about an hour from Exeter. I'm not sure how long it takes from Newquay. It's about half an hour, I think, and about 15-20 minutes from Penzance or Land's End. I'm never quite sure which one. But anyway, it's not very far. The further west you go, the closer it is. The downside about flying is, A, it's very expensive. It's well over £500 return from Exeter for each person, so quite expensive. But also the luggage allowance is quite small. You're only allowed about 15 kilos of luggage, which is not that generous when you think about you might be staying in a self-catering cottage like we are, and you want to bring lots of things with you, and you just can't. So there are some downsides. It's just a different experience, but what you're paying for is the uniqueness of a really beautiful part of England. So those are the ways to get to Scilly. So that's the first little bit of practical information, and it's worth keeping an eye on the schedules for both the Skybus and the Scillonian. In terms of accommodation, again, it's worth looking into that quite carefully. I believe there are campsites, but they're not really open until the summer. You've got hotels. There's a number of really quite good hotels on St Mary's and also on the off islands as well. So there's a famous Hell Bay Hotel on Briar. There's a very nice hotel on St Martin's, which name eludes me at the moment. But most of the hotels are on St Mary's. And the other way of staying on this in the Scilly Isles is to do self-catering, which is what we're doing. We looked into hotels. Again, they are very, very expensive. And I guess that the key message is that because the Isles of Scilly is such a small, bespoke, beautiful destination, you do pay proportionately a lot more to come here and have a holiday. Because it is so beautiful and accommodation is limited. So we decided to go for self-catering, which was much cheaper. You're looking at around about £1,000, maybe a little bit more at this time of year in the spring for a week's accommodation in self-catering. Hotel, you could double it, so it is expensive. Obviously with self-catering as well, you do have to self-cater or just go to the pub all the time, but that can add up as well. In terms of food, actually, let's just talk about that one, because in the shops in St Mary's, the main shop is the Co-op, which is very, very well stocked. I've mentioned the Co-op already, haven't I? But the Co-op's very, very well stocked. You can get most things there. Prices obviously a little bit higher than they would be on the mainland, but not significantly so. If you've got a Co-op card, you're going to save lots of money. It's a very busy store. There's always a lot of people coming and going. I wouldn't say the staff are the most friendly people I've ever come across in a supermarket, but it ticks the boxes. But there's a number of other shops as well. There's some bakeries, there's a butcher's, and in the main part of the season on the off islands there are shops as well. But again, the further away you go from St Mary's, the more limited the stock and the more expensive food is. It really does start to rocket in price once you get onto islands like St Martin's and places like that. And Tresco is much more expensive. But again, you're paying for this lovely experience of being on the islands. So in terms of eating out, there's two main pubs. There's the Mermaid and the Atlantic. Again, I think because we came at the beginning of the season, they just hadn't quite got into gear yet. You sense the staff on the islands are just getting themselves into gear for the season. And so there were a few little teething problems with slow service, staffing shortages, puddings not being available because things had broken down over the winter, coffee machines not always working. And I guess you just got to go with the flow at the beginning of the season and just expect a few hiccups. I think as you get into the season, once you get to sort of June, July, it's certainly into August, everything's working well, but everybody's here, so it's much, much busier. So there are a number of options you can eat out. There's some good cafes on St Mary's. One place I would heartily recommend is Juliet's Cafe on St Mary's. Absolutely amazing. They don't do evening meals, but if you're looking for a really nice lunch and the weather's lovely, you can sit out on the terrace and look over the beautiful harbour of St Mary's, and the food is absolutely superb. We've had some lovely meals at Juliet's this week. We've had coffee as well, and it's particularly famous for its cream teas, and you can rent cottages there as well. So that's a really good place. So there's lots of options, and I think the further into the season you get, the more you'll find there is available. You can buy newspapers on the island, you can buy gifts on the islands, there's lots. And as I said to you earlier, the honesty box culture is alive and well on the Scilly, so you can often stop by the roadside and pick up half a dozen eggs or a bunch of flowers or a succulent plant or a loaf of bread or something, which is lovely. So just a few little practical tips. Getting a boat to the islands is very easy. Every day on the jetty, on the main sort of harbour, and also in town, you can actually get where the boats are going, what time they're leaving, and what time they're coming back. And as the season gets into swing, you'll see more and more different trips. So not just trips to the off islands, but bird watching trips, guided nature walks. There's trips to go and see uninhabited islands as well. So there's a lot to do. You can keep yourself really, really busy. And the other thing you can do, if you follow the islands Facebook pages, you can get the information from that. The Scilly Isles Association of Boats will give you details every single day. They'll give you updates. So quite a few little tips there about the Isles of Scilly. It's, as I say, it's really down to you when you want to come. If you want to swim in the sea and pretty much guarantee lovely weather and know that everything's going to be open and available, probably coming anytime between late June and mid-September is probably your best bet, but it will be busy and there will be queues for things and you'll have to book ahead and wait in line for things like boats and that kind of thing. So that's the downside. If, like us, you've come in the spring, then it's wonderfully quiet everywhere. You've got beaches to yourself, you've got quiet streets, you've got relatively quiet boats, you don't have to queue, you don't have to book, but you'll find a lot of things aren't open, and that's one of the downsides, particularly on the off islands. We did a lot of walking around on St Martin's a couple of days ago and went to go and get coffee, and same for Tresco, and found that places were closed. So just be prepared. The earlier in the season you arrive, the less likely you are to find certain things like cafes and shops and things are open, and there's less choice on boat trips as well. But what you do get is the peace and solitude, which is absolutely lovely. And one final thought, I've mentioned it before, but don't miss St Mary's. There is so much to do on the main island. You can get off the beaten track, you can find secluded beaches, you can go on nature trails, It's lovely. So there's a few little tips for you, and hopefully you'll find those useful.